Actually, audibly calling you or sort of beckoning you to come?
A guy under the table calling me, like, come here, like, come to the dark side. I'm like, fuck that. I mean.
Okay, well, all right. Unfortunately, you just used some language that I can't have on the air, so I had to eliminate that. That's what happened there, folks. I understand that people get very emotional when they're telling a story, but there are certain words, the deadly 7, I think they are, that have been articulated that you cannot use on the air, and so we have a special little thing to eliminate that, and that's what just happened. He got to a part in the story where he indicated emotionally with a word we couldn't use that he was not about to follow the suggestion of that ghost. Time traveler line, you are on the air. Hello.
Hello.
You claim to be a time traveler.
Yes, I do. I have time traveled.
Okay, so in other words, you're in the here and now presently.
Yes, I'm here now. I time traveled back to 1987, where I actually have...
That was actually a pretty good year.
Yeah, that was a good year. I have some proof of the matter. There is a Pink Floyd album called Momentary Lapse of Reason.
Yeah.
And there's a photograph of me in that album.
Of you?
Yes. The song is called Yet Another Movie.
Well, but how could we know that it was you of, what'd you say, 87, right?
Yes.
How would we know that was you of 87? Well, I guess it would.
Well, the way it works is your body doesn't actually time travel. Your mind does.
Well, then how would they take a picture of your mind?
They didn't take a picture of my mind. They took a picture of myself when I was in 1987.
Then you were able to physically manifest yourself in 1987, and they couldn't have taken a picture, right?
That is correct. I have a computer in my brain.
Cool. A Pentium?
No, I actually don't know what it is.
Oh, you don't have a Mac up there, do you?
No, I have a some kind of computer implant.
So I suppose when you finally do die, it's going to be the blue screen of death, and you're gone, right?
I don't think so. Actually, I'm being very serious. I'm trying.
I know you are. I'm giving you trouble. I'm sorry. Go right ahead. You have a computer in your brain.
Yes. I am in contact with the future right now. They communicate with me through this computer telepathically and psychically.
To as far out as what year?
From what I've been told, 2050.
All right. It's obviously going to be important to all of us to know what's coming between now and 2050. Any little shred of anything you can give us.
I can tell you this, that right now aliens live in us, in every single person on this planet, and no one is aware of it.
You mean every one of us are in effect possessed?
If you want to call it that. It's not something that you can notice.
If they're in us, that's what I call it.
That's what I call it, too. They possess us.
You know what? If this were real, now here's the only problem I've got. If what you're telling me would be real, I mean, I've seen Star Trek. I've seen Kirk get thrown on the floor, tortured, when he would do the kind of thing that you and I are doing right now. If aliens were actually in each one of us, then my talking about this on the air openly with you would cause me to go thrashing around on the floor in pain, holding my head, screaming, and or same for you.
Yes, it's not something that we notice, though. They don't have physical form. They are some kind of something else, but they don't have physical form, and they possess us this way. Right now, in the world today, nobody is aware of it. I am aware of it because I have a computer in my brain. The computer was put in my brain in 1992 through an MRI scan.
Why you?
Well, I've been, since late March of 1999, I've been in a psychic battle for, it's almost 2 years now. They tell me that I'm the Hopi prophet. And
so you're fighting the computer, in essence? Is that right?
No, there's two sides. It's like the future is playing a game, so to speak.
Well, all this aside, and I wish you luck in your battle, it is important to us to know what's coming, if you can give us any shreds of info on it.
Let me tell you this, that in the future, everybody knows that there's aliens. You supposedly have a choice whether they could live in you or not.
In other words, we are the aliens.
No. Well, we're all aliens.
Yep.
I mean, just look at this tiny little speck that we call Earth that we're on.
No, but I think the most important thing you said is that aliens are already here. They're in every one of us. So
That's correct.
So in effect, we are the aliens.
Yes.
The entire world has been possessed.
Yeah.
Well, okay, here's the part I don't get. The world right now is really, really screwed up. So if the aliens are in all of us, they're really misbehaving, and they began about 30 years ago. So none of this is our fault; it's their fault.
They are.
All right, sir.
They operate on a higher mind level. They operate in an abstract world.
Yeah, but they're acting like social gorillas.
They are. They're bad. They've been possessing me. I've got lumps on the sides of my head.
Oh my God.
And they're in me right now.
Yeah.
They communicate with me. They have my body split in half. The left side of my body is false, the right side is true. And they tap little sections of my body. That's another way that they communicate with me.
I've seen guys like you at football games.
Really?
Yeah, in the crowd. Half of them is, well, anyway. Listen, thank you very much for the call. I almost don't know how to deal with that. God, no. What are you going to do? There's another new concept for you. Do you ever consider that not only are the aliens here, but they're in every single one of us? That would account for a lot, wouldn't it? We are all aliens. We have been long since possessed. And if we can use the mark of social behavior as a moment when it occurred, it was about 30-some-odd years ago. That sure would answer a lot of questions. First time? No. Old habits die hard. My possessed timeline line. You're on the air.
Yes, I am from the future, and I am from the past.
Both?
Both. I've been to both. And right now...
You're a traveling man.
Yes. Right now, what I need to say to everyone is some things that are going on right now on Earth. Now, first I ask, do you know what the frequency is? Have you heard the frequency? Say you're, out in the woods somewhere and it's totally quiet.
Yeah.
And you listen and you hear a frequency, or you're taking a bath with the door closed. You can hear a frequency. And what that is, it's recording. This frequency is recording everything that happens on this planet right now.
Wow.
They have super high-tech lights. They're lights that act as antenna they usually mount them in trees, or they can just mount them on your house or whatever. You can't see them. They're on a different wavelength. And that records everything that's happening, every thought that every person on this planet is thinking, everything. And in the future, you can review your past lives. So, like right now, you, Art, and me, we are reviewing our past lives at this time as we're talking.
Really?
Do you follow me?
I think.
Okay. And what else I need to say is that they're not only recording everything on this planet,
yes,
they're also controlling us. And like some other people, I do have a computer in my brain that allows me to hear these frequencies.
You too, huh?
Yes. They are the frequencies that I'm hearing.
You have a computer in your brain?
Yes. As a younger boy.
What was the name of the secret...
How fast can he think?
No.
Yes, I don't know anything about history.
You don't?
No, I'm not.
Damn. I was going to ask you a simple historical question.
Yeah, it's not that kind of...
Computer.
I'm not programmed with
okay, what does
history.
the computer do for you?
The computer is Well, okay, say you have a brain, and our brain is basically a computer, and we're only using like 7 or 9% of it.
Well, we know that to be true.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you add something to it, an implant or a computer implant or whatever you want to call it, they can and do access different parts of your brain.
But with so much capacity, so much storage, a simple little political U.S. question, and you're not ready for it.
Are you talking about the history?
Yeah.
Answering the history question?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, with that much storage, why not a little bit of history?
That's a good question. I don't know why. I mean, there's so much.
Well, there's a second thing you don't have an answer for.
There's so much, so much history. I mean,
What kind of lousy operating system are you being subjected to?
What would you like to know?
How often does it crash?
It never crashes.
It just eternally provides you with a mediocre stream of bits of yeses and nos?
Well, it enhances my own brain and activates different functions of my brain. As far as, you're asking remembering history and stuff, that's not something that I do. I'm not a history person.
Well, I'm sorry, sir. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Yeah, hi. Well, I had an experience on psilocybin mushrooms I'd like to share with you. I had a friend for 2 years, almost 3 years, who said he could show me other dimensions. And when he said that, I never really thought about what he was saying. But anyway, so we planned a day that we'd get together and do mushrooms. And it was my first time doing it. I show up to his house, and he said that, I was late, and he had taken his mushrooms, so here, take my dose. And it was what I thought would look like a big dose, but we had discussed that it had to be to see other dimensions, so I went ahead and took the dose. It was around a dinner plate full of mushrooms. Anyway, so I noticed right away that I was overdosed.
I would be immediately suspicious of a dinner plate full of anything.
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
This was my best friend, somebody that I would almost say that I was, now I look back at it and say I was under a spell. I wasn't really thinking. I can't believe it. But anyway, so I can't believe I'm telling you this story. But anyway, so once I noticed that I'm, overdosed, he started telling me that today's the day that I go to hell, and that he's a messenger, and they decided up above that, Paul needs to go to hell that day. All right?
This is not your friend, Paul.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. And I really, really thought it was. Anyway, so I sit down on the couch, and, your natural reaction is thinking that your friend is going to walk you through this. He invited you to his house to do mushrooms with him, so I kind of was still, even though he just told me something upsetting, I was still wanting to believe that he was helping me. So I laid down on the couch. And,
I see it now right away. I have a problem with that. The moment he said, today is your day to go to hell, right. That has such a negative connotation to it, Paul, that I don't see how you could think he was helping you.
What could I do? Could I go outside the house and scream, no. I'm overdosed? I should have picked up the phone and dialed 911. But I can't breathe. I'm struggling to breathe. My pulmonary, I was so far out that I would forget to breathe. And really, what could I do? And so he brings me into the living room. And by the way, each room was decorated different. The first room that I was in was all red lights. And anyway, so I'm going to get the story going here. So, he's sitting down talking to me, and this vibration came through the room, like whoa, 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 whoa. And it forced me down into the couch kind of a feeling, like I was really falling deep into the couch. And I would rebel against it and try to stand up. But anyway, so I fought this, and he commented about how I was fighting that feeling. And he started talking to me, and his eyeball changed. He had a little pierced earring on his eyebrow, and that dice started to spin. And when it changed, his eyeball changed and his skin changed. Okay? And there he is, this guy looking like an alligator with this eye that was just bright yellow, and the hole in it was just deep. Anyway, so I'm freaking out, and I go to the door. And when I get to the door, I couldn't open up the door. And then he stands, and then next thing I know, he's standing right behind me, and it's him again. And he says to me, when you open that door, hell starts. So I opened the door, and by the way, he had told me that the police, God's angels, the white man was coming to take me to hell. So I opened the door, and yeah, there were the police. He had called 911 on me, and yeah, they broke my skull, or supposedly cracked it and broke some ribs.
The police cracked your skull and broke ribs?
Yep. And Art, I don't know, I know I was walking, screaming into the sky, God help me. And I thought that maybe just by being out there that, somebody would call the police. So, sorry, I'm gargling to keep my mouth wet. Anyway, so
so it was your friend who called the police, right?
Yeah, he called the police, and the 911 transcriptions say that he said that he had a homosexual friend from work who was breaking into his house. Yeah.
Hey, Paul, I would disconnect yourself from this person and never
God.
again.
Of course. I've never. Well, I saw him once after that to confront him on what he did to me.
Oh,
but
yeah,
anyway,
that'd be interesting. And what did he say?
I said, number one, I started off with, you're a snake. And
At
number
the least.
two, what?
At the least.
At least, right? Anyway, but Art, I want to tell you. So after this, I thought, I was just tripping. It was something that I saw. And my friend invites me to go to Washington State with him, and I'm in the back of a big rig truck. And George had somebody on, I'd never really thought about Coast to Coast before. George had somebody on the radio that said that he saw somebody turn into a reptilian. And when he described it, he said it started by the eyebrow. And I'm sitting in the back of this big rig going up the 5 freeway, and it occurred to me, I didn't hallucinate. That doesn't happen. There are no pink elephants out there. He really did. And Mark, my life has been so strange since that occurrence. I see.
Well, I'm sure it has. All right. Well, listen, thank you very much. That was interesting. I've often wondered about truck drivers out there. I think he said on the I-5, driving one of those big rigs. And, you have to wonder, hopefully he wasn't under any sort of influence like the one he described. And who needs friends like that? My God. They invite you in for a trip to another dimension, sit you down to a dinner plate. A dinner plate, mind you, full of hallucinogenic mushrooms. You apparently munch down, clean off the dinner plate, and then he tells you you're going to hell and calls the cops on you and claims that it was some sort of homosexual encounter. I don't see how it gets any worse than that. Let's go to the first-time caller line. Maybe it does. You're on the air. Hello.
Fanny in Alabama on the wild card line. Fanny, how you doing?
Hey. Well, I know the reason why Barack Obama's mother can't be located. I believe that she's running from the law and the press because she knows the truth about her son being a Muslim, and I have proof of that. And if he's a terrorist, he's going to hide it, and he wants to get in the White House and use that to blow the whole world up. I believe in that theory, and I have pictures of him that nobody wants to look at. I gave it to 10 television stations, and they made out like they didn't see the pictures.
Is that right? What do the pictures show?
This is him with 2 other Muslim men wearing a purple bubo robe and a white kufi hat, which is given upon completion at the Hajj after completing several steps. Just like in the Masons, when you're in the Shriner, you get a Shriner's hat. It's similar to that, only the Shriners are not the same. It's just a similar way of getting a hat.
So, Fanny, where'd you get these secret photos? Did they just come in the mail? Where'd you get them? Or are these photos of an Obama trip to Africa?
Yes, but this is a different trip and different photos. And if he is exposed, he can be impeached as a senator. And then if he gets elected president, he can be impeached for lying under oath and saying that he was born in the United States when he's not.
Well, hold on a second. Now, we're talking about a couple of different things here. You had photos that you think purport to show that he is a Muslim, which I'm not quite sure why that's a bad thing. But
well,
and now you say
about it.
He's lied about it.
If he's lied about that, he's probably lied about his intention to blow us up. If he told the truth about it, it wouldn't bother me nearly as much. I've dated a Muslim man before, but if I could go back again, I would not have, knowing that they're terrorists this way.
Well, to tell you the truth, Fanny, I think you need a little bit more information than you've got a photo of him wearing a funny hat that as proof that he's a Muslim or that he's lying about his citizenship. Don't you think you need a little bit more?
Why doesn't somebody confront him with that photo? He needs to be confronted with that photograph and see if he wants to explain and get what his version is. I'd like for him to take a polygraph and explain what his version is of that photo and why is everybody trying to hide it and why is his mother a fugitive?
Well, that's quite a mouthful there, Fanny. Thank you for the call. I'm not even quite sure what to say about that. I just know that you see those internet reports come up. He's a Muslim. He's not a Muslim. He's not a citizen. Day after day. Doesn't mean you have to be an Obama fan to recognize smear tactics and rumor and innuendo. If somebody's got some information on that, they're welcome to call in, but they better be have a little more under control than Fanny in Alabama there. We'll be right back with more Coast to Coast AM.
Kurt Cobain, and I guess this shows how out of touch I'm beginning to get with rock and roll. Kurt Cobain was one of the nation's top rock and roll singers. I never heard of Kurt Cobain. He was the lead singer for a group called Nirvana, and I guess yesterday he committed suicide. Born in 1967, died in 1994, shotgun blast, self-administered, up in the Seattle area. He originated a music and fashion style called grunge. Do any of you happen to know what grunge is? I'm embarrassed. Not only did I not know who Kurt Cobain was, but I've not heard of grunge either. I have heard just of Nirvana. It is the same old story. Drugs, alcohol problems. But he sold Kurt and the group sold 15 million albums. And you've always got to wonder why all of these artists have to go so early. You could run through a whole list of them, and I won't do it. I won't bore you with that. But you know the number of rock stars that have one way or the other left this world by their own hand, and you have to wonder why there's so much of it. Why do they do it? Is it the pressure? Is it the drugs? Is it the alcohol? What is it? Do they just want to be remembered as a young, pretty corpse, as the old saying goes? Or what is the story here? Is the pressure just too much for them? I don't know. Just open to speculation.
I just wanted to ask you a question.
Sure.
My mom's from the South and has told me this story as I've been growing up. And for years I didn't believe it, but since then I've started to wonder if it is true. She said that my aunt and uncle were sleeping one night. My other uncle was in the same bed with them. They're poor. And somebody started pulling the covers down off the bed. And my aunt and uncle thought it was my other uncle fooling around and said, knock it off. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. They sat up. All three of them saw a naked man crawling across the floor. Oh. And as he got a few feet away from the bed, he disappeared.
Oh.
And I thought that was pretty weird for all these years. And then my husband was reading a book about demons. And they actually had a name for some kind of demon that goes in people's room, they're naked, and they pull the covers off the bed. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
No, and I'm not looking forward to hearing it. No, that sounds awful. Naked man crawling across your bed.
I know. What's the point of that? But it's one of those things that has bothered me all these years. And then to have my husband read this book.
Besides, he pulls the covers off. And what's the one thing when you see something as awful as that, you want the covers, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I have to tell you, I work the evening shift at a hospital, and I listen to your show on my way home. And there's been several times I've actually had to turn it off because it started scaring the heck out of me.
Well, I don't have that luxury, and it frequently scares the hell out of me. I appreciate your call.
Sure,
Thank you. Anybody else had the naked crawling guy pulling the covers down syndrome in their bedroom at night? Bad.
Just one question I want to ask.
Yes.
Are you going to be having any guests on pretty soon?
What guest?
Like something on UFOs. You know, this moment, I just got to express my opinion real quick right here. Y'all, you have this girl who said she had sex with a lizard, right?
Pamela.
Yeah. I mean, you're wasting your time with that lady. You know damn well that's not true. You know.
How do you know it's not true?
Is it an alien lizard?
That's what she said.
Oh man, she got to get off the acid. She need to stay off the acid.
You think so, huh?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for the call. Trucker number 1.
All right. This is one that I get. I think I get it every day, actually, and this is kind of adult-oriented, but it's the Good Luck Mr. Gorski story about the first man upon the moon. And
Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong, yes.
And that's for some reason that one's really been making the rounds again lately, and
big time.
And yeah, we'll try to go through this delicately, Art. But the story basically is that when Neil Armstrong, when man walked on the moon back in 1969, of course, there was the famous saying that's one small step for a man and one giant leap for mankind.
That's right. That
if you study the transcripts, that the next thing uttered by Neil Armstrong it was "Good luck, Mr. Gorski." And then he goes on to talk about technical things up on the moon. And for years, people tried to dissect, what did he mean with this good luck Mr. Gorski deal? And there were theories that maybe that was a Russian...
Before we go on, did he actually say that?
No, he didn't.
He did not say that?
He did not. And in fact, I've obtained the NASA transcripts, and you know, your enterprising listeners who know their way around the Internet can get access even there to the actual transcripts of what happened. What he said after that was, you know, a lot of technical terms just about, you know, how the surface of the moon felt and things like that, and kind of describing the feeling of being on the moon. But the supposed comment about Mr. Gorski has just lived on in infamy, and some people thought, well, he must be signaling a Russian cosmonaut, and others said, well, it has to mean something deeper than that. And according to the urban legend, just a few years ago, there was supposedly a press conference where a young reporter asked Neil Armstrong at maybe a NASA reunion party or something.
That's right.
And he said, well, gosh, it's been so long, I'll finally tell the truth about this story. And the story goes that a young Neil Armstrong growing up in Ohio was playing ball in his backyard, and the ball went into the next-door neighbor's yard, and he hopped the fence, and the ball was right underneath the bedroom window of his next-door neighbor. And when he went to pick up the ball, young Neil heard his neighbor, the male, asking his wife for a certain sexual favor, and her retort to him was, you'll get that the day the kid next door walks on the moon. So that's why he said, good luck, Mr. Gorski, because he said, okay, you're going to get lucky. Now, the reality is that there was never any such press conference where this question was asked, and that Neil Armstrong has never told the real story, because there is no real story. And one of the fun things about this book was trying to track these down as best as I could, so I called NASA, and of course they'd heard the story before, and I happened to have Mr. Armstrong's home number, and he's kind of a press-shy fellow, you know, to his credit. Neil Armstrong is not a guy who's done a lot of Pop-Tart commercials and stuff over the years.
He's actually kind of a mysterious fellow in a lot of ways.
He really is.
Yeah.
He really is. And the folks at NASA strongly advised me that I probably wouldn't want to waste my time bothering this guy with the story. And I said, you know, out of all due respect to the guy, I'm going to let it go because we know it's not true. But I was very tempted to call him up and say, hey, it's Gorski calling. Stop spreading the story about me.
I just wanted to thank you, Neil. So that one, I mean, I literally get that one every day. That one is really back up and going.
Yeah, and once again, because of the Internet. I think if not for the Internet, some of these stories might finally die out, but they just keep getting reborn. And you'd think that especially, you know, the younger people who are so cynical about, you know, don't believe everything you read or don't, you know, believe half of what you hear.
Interesting times, to be sure. First time caller line, you are on the air. Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
First, I have to prod him with my electromagnetic stun gun facilitator here to get him to talk a little bit here. There we go. There, got a little electricity there. Okay, now, can you talk to the Art Max? Can you talk to him? What was that talking? Was that talking?
Hit him with a gun again, sir.
Yeah, okay, let's get the gun out. There we go. That's at 400,000 water, I think.
Okay.
There we go.
That'll get him going.
Does that scare you? You gonna talk now? You better start talking. I know. I'll try the old harmonica.
Now you're hurting the animal.
I think they're saying, "Shut that thing."
You know what?
What was that?
You know, that's it. You know what my comment is? That dog wasn't even phased with the 400,000 volts. But that harmonica, that hurt. That obviously put that poor animal into pain. Oh, boy, the nighttime.
What is your problem?
Who are you referring to?
Well, everyone you've spoken to. The poor guy who called about the airliner being down.
Yes.
And he
asked me, I believe he asked me, sir, if this latest statement didn't blow Richard Hoagland's theory out of the water. And I said no, because it was not a determination. It simply is how they are leaning. Now, where did you detect rudeness in that?
Oh, well, I thought that was a reasonable response. But when the poor guy said it was a doctor so-and-so, and you said, well, I thought he was a doctor, and he said, no, sir.
He is not a doctor. That is correct.
Well, as if there's something wrong with the guy. You could simply, the idea there was that you were so rude to him. As far as the rest of the conversation.
No, I corrected him. I said he is not a doctor. Richard Hoagland indeed is not a doctor, medical or otherwise, has no doctorate, and so the title is inappropriate.
Well, yeah, I can understand that, but
well, where do you see rudeness in that?
Well, I don't think there was a case for putting the guy down.
I didn't, sir. I didn't. I did not. I simply corrected him.
Yeah, and then on the Randy Weaver thing, after you told the guy that you didn't offer opinions about these things, then you turn right around and say, my opinion has always been about the Randy Weaver case. It was thus and so.
That is correct.
Yeah, but you put down the first guy. The second time.
No, I didn't put him down. I did not put anybody down, sir. I corrected him. That's it.
And then when it came to the guy who was calling about the white supremacists, you were rude and patronizing to the poor guy. You know, he was just.
He asked me whether I thought the white supremacists were going to take over the country, and I said no.
Yeah, I felt that.
In what way do you see rudeness there?
Well, it's your tone and your spirit. Rod, Mr. Bell, you give the impression that somehow an innocent question is a stupid thing to do.
Well, I'm sorry you take it that way. I didn't feel that way about it. You took it that way, apparently. I don't feel that way about it.
Coming across. You also on the question about the web page, the fellow just asked a simple question. Sir, we're doing the best we can.
That's what I said.
As if he didn't think you were.
We probably have more information out, newsletter-wise and on the web, than anybody I know of, as a matter of fact.
Well, yeah, but all you have to do is tell him that in a nice way.
I thought I did.
Comment about Farrakhan, the poor guy you cut him off.
You're incredible.
Yeah, you're incredible. First time I've ever heard you, but I was just tuning in and I thought, holy smokes, I don't know what this guy's problem is, but he's going to put down everybody who calls. That's a way of insulting everyone. So I don't believe I'll be tuning in anymore.
Well, in that case, have a good night.
Yes, good night.
See you later. Would you
consider yourself weird?
I don't think of myself as weird on a moment-to-moment basis, but every so often, if I'm able to step back far enough from the forest to see the trees, I would have to be considered weird, yes.
Well, even though you might not consider yourself weird, is it reasonable that other people would consider you weird?
Completely and totally reasonable.
All right. What is it you do? This is not what's my line, but I mean, what do you...
On a day-to-day basis, to put it at its weirdest, I take...
Call us toll-free at 1-800-618-8255.
Do that is because...
Oh, now, wait a minute. We're going to have to be a little bit careful here.
I'll crank it...
we're going to have to be a little careful. I mean, I'm not Howard Stern.
I understand.
I'm open-minded, but I'm not Howard. So
we're professionals.
We are. And so we're going to have to do this tastefully, if possible.
All right. I handle the constant barrage of questions related to a device called the Venus 2 Personal Comfort System for Men, and also another device called Sybian.
Wait, let's get these straight. The Venus 2. Is that correct?
That's correct. The Venus 2 Personal Comfort System.
Personal Comfort System for Men, and
the Sybian, which is a comparable device made for ladies.
And these devices...
Both of these devices are engineered from the ground up to produce orgasms for the Venus for males, the Sybian for females.
These are orgasmic machines.
And they are not toys. These are devices that are made to the standards of quality, durability, and safety that are much more closely related to medical or therapeutic or clinical devices. They sell the Sybian is $1,400.
$1,400.
It can be had for around $1,250, but I'm just
you discount occasionally.
If we do offer discount offers, and the Venus 2 sells for $1,095, but it can be had for around $950. And I'm not trying to hawk them, but it is a very peculiar.
When you say $1,095, you mean $1,095?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And they're made to last a lifetime of the owners. And all day long, I take questions from individuals who, through one means or another, have heard about the devices, and they're calling to either to buy or to ask questions.
Okay, so you manufacture machines that produce orgasms, machines.
Yes.
Now, as a matter of absolute curiosity, what got you started in this?
In this working for
line
the
of
particular.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. I was managing a nightclub in Chicago, and Chicago has some very unusual standards about gentlemen's clubs, and the club was closed due to a parking. We had insufficient spaces for cars, if you can believe that was the real reason. And simultaneous with that, a local newspaper, Chicago Reader, published an article about a fellow who was the original engineer inventing the Venus 2, and I called to congratulate him because that particular issue had been picked up from the distribution points faster than any other issue in the 20-year history of that newspaper. And I had put in about 10 years in medical marketing, once for plastic surgeons, another time for a renowned eye doctor. And to make a long story short, what I do is not too dissimilar from medical marketing, because as you stated, we have to be professional.
I mean, I can certainly understand that, for example, there would be a definite use for that machine in, say, a sperm bank.
I'm sorry?
There would be a definite use for that machine in, say, a sperm bank. Right?
That makes sense.
I mean, where were you
certainly we've sold a few, but because of the age that we live in, there's a lot of people who either, let's say in the case of men, who do not have access to ladies or who think that they don't, which amounts to the same thing, and who are afraid to take care of those matters the way people did 50 years ago, or maybe even 15 or 20 years ago, or 10 years ago.
And then, of course, there's safe sex and AIDS and all the rest of that, too.
Yes, and some people feel that as men age, and it is inevitable that they're going to be confronted with prostate problems.
Oh, yes.
And many doctors feel that if those matters aren't taken care of, that can accelerate the point in time when someone is confronted with that difficulty. And also, and this is, I think, it qualifies both as weird and also as beneficial. But the Venus 2 can produce and deliver orgasms even for men who are impotent.
Wow.
In other words, it functions. It doesn't have to be operating on something that's rigid.
What made you decide to call it the Venus 2? Now, Venus was associated with love, I suppose.
It was already called the Venus 2 when I came on board. I didn't invent this, but I did add the personal comfort system for men because it has to be a way of describing it.
How about, I thought of, while I was just sitting here thinking during the news, I thought of the Orgasmatic.
Well, Orgasmatron is one of the names that we have copyrighted.
Oh, copyrighted yet, huh?
Oh, sure.
Are these large machines physically?
Venus 2 comes in its own carrying case that's about the size of a large briefcase.
Not
However,
that big, then.
We're coming out with a next generation unit in the spring, and it would fit in a shoebox.
A shoebox? Wow. Now, how are these items marketed? I mean, you don't go door to door and, like the vacuum cleaner salesman, yes, hi, ma'am, I want to show you our...
We put reasonably discreet ads in some of the better adult magazines, and also occasionally I'll do a press release, and we generate interviews.
How's the market? I mean, are sales brisk?
They're very consistent. I would say that each week we sell between 15 and 25 units. And,
wow.
And we're so confident about the quality of the product
yes.
and the effectiveness of the product that,
yes.
that they're sold on the basis of a 45-day trial period. So if someone...
Really?
If for any reason someone buys one of these and they decide this isn't worth it or this isn't what I had in mind or it's not for me...
Then you give the money back?
We do.
You do?
We do not take any part of the unit back that comes into physical contact.
Well, see, I was about to ask for that. It's like...
No, we take back the power and control unit, and we refund all of their money except for $125. So if I can do that mathematically, a person could buy one of these units, and if they returned it, basically they spent $125 to keep it for a month and a half. There's a store in California that rents them for $150 a week.
Rents them?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
You buy your own attachment.
I think
connected to it by a pneumatic hose.
I think I understand. How do your friends and family react when you explain the kind of business you're in?
My family is mortified.
They're mortified?
Yes. My friends know me, and it's not a problem of any kind. But my family was
a little mortified.
Well, pretty much so.
Well,
that's everybody has their own family.
Yeah, you're definitely in a unique business. No question about it. Do you see a big future for your product?
Absolutely. One of the first press release I did, we got somehow the Bloomberg Financial Wire picked it up, and I would say we got at least 400 calls from stockbrokers, commodity brokers, bankers, insurance men, and I predict that we will take the company public on the internet.
Wow.
And I think it'll cook. I know that's worked for microbreweries, for example. And also the next generation, Venus 2, will be more powerful. The maximum speed will be higher. The minimum speed will be lower. It's so quiet that we have to put an on-off light on it so that it's not accidentally left on all night. And the new price will be in the $500 range. And I think that
it's probably a lot quieter than its user.
Yes. Well, we haven't solved that problem yet.
Does it offer its user a cigarette?
No, but that would be a very good accessory.
All right. Listen, on a scale of 10, I think you qualify as roughly an 8.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And may I just say, so that you're not inundated, and I'm not asking to give a phone number, but can I say what city we're in so if people want to call information, they could?
Yeah, sure. I've got to give you that. Sure. What city are you in?
The name of the company is Abco Research, ABCO.
Yeah.
And we're in Monticello, Illinois.
All right. I appreciate your call, and you definitely qualify as an 8 out of 10 on the scale of weirdness. Now, what I am doing this night, because I got a call earlier from Strange Universe today, and I can already see I'm on the right track here. And they're going to have a weird contest, the weird person contest. And that man definitely qualifies as an entrant. As a matter of fact, he really should enter the Strange Universe contest. But I thought, who better qualified to go out and find strange and weird people than me? And I can assure you, before the night is over, you will definitely agree with me. I do like the Orgasmatron as a name.